Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Michael. And can I also thank Conrad, quite rightly mentioned in dispatches by Michael Roberts a moment ago. I am indeed very pleased to be here, and the fact that people are getting on their bikes more and more is a good thing. The fact that people are using trains more and more is a good thing. And if we can do something to bring those two elements together, as the Cycle Rail Working Group does, then that's all to the good. The coalition, which of course is its own tandem of a sort, not saying who's in front, has been very active in promoting this agenda. We've recently allocated £7 million to the Cycle Rail Working Group for improved cycle facilities at stations. They tell me there is a B list if any more money becomes available. I've noted that just in case it does. And with match funding of £5 million, the 30 cycle rail schemes will see improvements at 141 different stations, providing an additional 7,600 cycle parking spaces and 840 new hire bikes. Network Rail is also investing a further £7 million in improving cycle facilities at stations, including in safe routes and access. And that includes a £700,000 contribution towards a joint Network Rail TfL fund totaling £1.3 million. And I'm looking forward to receiving from Network Rail details of where the spaces are already in the ground and when they're all going to be completed, their individual schemes. So these funds, along with match funding, will see a total of £19.6 million spent on improving cycle facilities at stations across England this year. And the evidence is that where this money is invested, it's money well spent, because facilities are almost immediately, very frequently, filled up. There is something of an unmet demand for cycle spaces, safe parking at railway stations. We've seen, for example, 450 additional spaces introduced at St Albans City Station in a number of phases. There are now over 1,000 cycle spaces at this station, but the cycle parking is almost full to capacity. Indeed, St Albans perhaps ought to be renamed Little Holland. It's biking as such. And there are now plans for a further 120 spaces at St Albans. And Ashford International cycle parking has increased threefold in the past 4 years due to investment by Kent County Council to improve the cycle routes of the station and the town, and due to housing growth. That cycle parking is now full, and bikes are being parked at random near the station. There's a further bid in for 170 additional parking spaces there. But I think all of us, both in government and local councils, in train companies and in Network Rail, have to keep our eye on this particular ball to make sure that we do realise that the provision perhaps was normal 10 years ago is no longer adequate. For example, the major development at Birmingham New Street saw a total of 78 new cycle parking spaces, which was itself up from 24. It was only after, my intervention, Network Rail has reconsidered this total and increased it to 160, which is still way below St Albans. There will be 188 spaces for staff, but it does seem to me, for a station like Birmingham New Street, that is questionable as to whether that's sufficient or not. So there's still some way to go. On the other hand, we've seen a fantastic good practice at, say, Leeds Station with the cycle hub bang outside the station in prime position to encourage the link between cycling and taking the train. So now, we've got work going on in the department to try to integrate even further cycling and travelling by train, as well as supporting the Cycle Rail Working Group, and I thank Philip Darnton and his colleagues for the work they do on that. We launched the Cycle Rail Toolkit on the 22nd of August this year. That will help train operators improve provision for cyclists by setting out how to provide good facilities, encourage new cycle rail users, and promote and market these facilities. The station travel plan, the pilot scheme, ended in 2011 last year, in autumn. Evaluation of those schemes showed good evidence of increased cycling and improved satisfaction with connections to public transport at some of the stations. And the pilot demonstrated an effective tool, this was the station travel plan, for helping train companies and local authorities deliver sustainable transport measures at stations. And, perhaps most current, I'm working with officials and indeed with help from industry and others on a door-to-door strategy to support a well-connected, smart and sustainable transport system that works for everyone. It will encourage the general public to make greener choices by enabling transport providers to deliver initiatives that will make it easier and more convenient to make the whole journey through sustainable means. And of course, the connection between cycling and travel by train is very important. It's not simply about keeping people fit. It's not simply about getting carbon reductions down from transport. It's not simply even about choice in terms of the journey method you want to adopt. It's also, from the train company's point of view, in my judgment, often a sensible commercial decision. Many of our train stations are centred in city centres. Before the car was thought of, the car parking is often limited, and that can be a bar. And actually getting people to cycle to the station, that gets more people in a smaller space parking something at the station than would be the case if they used a car. So I would say to the train companies, there are commercial reasons for promoting cycling to stations, as well as the other reasons which I've referred to. So it is very good news that we're seeing more and more people and organisations entering for these awards. It's great we've got such a good turnout today, and I look forward to hearing of the winners. Thank you very much for organising this award, those who've organised it, and thank you for coming along this afternoon.